here to support you guys, man.
When he took over the sales spot, he would call me with certain questions, and it started to get to the point. I'm like, call Miguel. I appreciate it. I think I've had this conversation before, but let's be sure.
Yeah.
Call
It
Miguel.
was like, I'd be 95% certain, but maybe I'm going to run it by Ricky real quick. And he's like, I think you're right, but call Miguel.
He just reminded me of raising kids and getting to that math level where you're like, yeah, I can't help it.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Born to Tint podcast with Mother Brothers. I'm Ricky. I'm glad to be here with my big brother, Josh.
How's it going, everybody? We have a great episode for you today. We have Miguel Detres with Solar Gard. He's the technical services manager. He's been a tremendous help to our business over the years. Anytime I have a question, that's the man I call. We have a great conversation. We talk about a bunch of stuff all over the industry. Check it out. All right, so you got a taste of what it's really like around here.
Yeah. Well, he's got like he hasn't seen it before. Please get the hell out of here.
It's a solid 10 minutes there.
How was the party?
It was good, man.
Yes.
It was. We had nice amount of people there. It's real well spread out. Feels like our booth, honestly. It's a big space. But no, it was really good, man. I think everybody had a good time.
That was great. I love that you guys used that place again because that's where it was last year.
Yeah.
That place is chill.
Yeah, I didn't come last year, and I heard all about it. And I mean, they said it was great, so they wanted to do it the same place. I was like, cool.
Oh, yeah, I like that better than a nightclub because it still had music, good vibes. The bar is like,
well, you can talk
in the patio overlooking the strip. It's just chill.
That's true. The talking part.
Yeah.
You can actually, you can. I mean, yes, of course. I guess the parties are there to let loose, have a fun time, but also like don't want to lose the networking. Like that's what I enjoy about any of the events that we do when it comes to WFCT and any of the competitions. SEMA is the whole point is go down, talk, and like network with people you don't see ever.
Yeah, no, I think the table vibe too, just all the tables around everywhere, all the seating areas everywhere. I mean, it allowed people to do that because everybody congregated to different areas and you could tell there was some deep conversation going on, which is really cool.
Last year was pretty cool in the fact that there was a Knights game playing at the same time at T-Mobile. And then every time the Knights score, if you're on the strip when they're playing, they blow the air horn to where you could hear it pretty far. From Brewdogs, you can hear it perfectly. You hear it, burr, and you're like, and we scored.
Yeah, all of us that are locals would just all of a sudden start screaming and yelling, and everybody else is like, what are you doing? We're like, the Knights just scored.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That would be neat.
Yeah.
Steve's Bengals were playing last night, so unfortunately they lost right at the end there.
Oh, that's expected.
But they went for it.
It was a good game. I watched the whole game. It was a good game. I mean, they were crushing them to begin with, and then they decided to stop playing for about a quarter and a half. And then they started playing again. And in my eyes, it's a coin flip no matter what, because both defenses were playing like hot garbage when it comes down to it. At any given point in the game, if you go to overtime, it's who's getting the ball first. Most likely they're walking it down and scoring a touchdown. Yeah. So instead of even going to that, just screw it. Let's go for it. Yeah.
Can't hate it.
No. Well, go for the win. Who cares?
Exactly.
So we really appreciate you coming down and sit down and talk with us, man.
I was excited to come down, man. So I'm really excited to have the time to come down here. And I know Steve did it and Rob did it. And I know some others have done it. So I was like, man, I don't know when I'll get to the West Coast. So appreciate the invite.
Oh no, yeah. As soon as we started, this week came upon us, it was starting to look at the list of like the people that we want to have on because for that sole reason is that only so many people make it out to the West, let alone make it to Vegas at the same time. So we knew this week was going to be a gauntlet of sitting down and trying to chat with as many people as we humanly can.
I bet you guys been busy.
Yeah, it's been good though. It's actually nice to finally have it here in our own spot. So it's a lot more comfortable. I mean, it was great where we were at too, but like really having control over the schedule.
Absolutely.
You know, like
I look forward past this. Like today is definitely a lot easier. Yesterday was like extremely tight because we had 4. So it was like 9 o'clock. And then in between the first and second one, we had Steve and Rob stop by so they could see everything. It's like we had that in between. Like yesterday, there was like 0 time to stop. It was like, all right, we're done. Hey, thank you. Appreciate it. And then, hey, how's it going? Come on back. And then, so today it's, we have we have a nice little break, and then we have Mark from EDTM.
I was talking to Mark last night. Yeah, you mentioned it coming, so he's excited too. So
we got like the two two tech guys
Yeah.
that know most
We
of the stuff.
talked about that last night. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, well, let's see if we don't cross over too much information.
We can't get through it all in a couple hours
Yeah.
each. There's no way.
And beyond that, in my eyes, there's no such thing as putting out too much of this information, because that's the biggest thing that we're obviously trying to do, especially with the podcast, is educate in the fact that you can do flat glass. And now with all the different technology in glass, like it is like a field filled with landmines. Like if you don't know what you're putting on and what type of glass it is now, like you could get away with it earlier on to a point, depending on where you were located in the country. You could get away with certain films doing, and that's if you didn't want to sell other films. But if you want to actually open up your repertoire to sell everything,
Absolutely.
gotta know what you're sticking on. Like I always wondered, like, what are we gonna put highlight 25 on? It's tempered windows. Like, all right, what house is gonna have tempered windows? And then I'm coming across when I did the sales for like a brief second, I had a guy who wanted smoked glass, and it was a Surface 2 triple silver soft coat. And you're like, yeah, I just need the measurements, need the things, and I just got to approve it, and it can be done. I'm like, didn't even think that was humanly possible.
Yeah.
You know? So
Yeah.
No, you're right. I mean, glass is getting definitely more complicated. I mean, Europe is far ahead of us. We've been seeing it for a while coming, and then we're seeing it in Canada. And as the code regulations continue to force these numbers down, whether it's U value or solar heat gain coefficient, it's really becoming an issue as far as applying film. But in your point, like Arizona and Florida, I mean, we have triple silver coating, so we can get away with a lot of stuff. Up north, it's totally different challenge. They have a lot of coating, Surface 3 coatings. So interior films aren't a big thing. I mean, our European colleagues are selling probably 80% of their film is exterior film now because of this.
I'm actually, like, at first, I don't think I say I was against it, but I was kind of like, I guess, optimistic when it came down to it. Like, all right, going exterior. But now I actually love the fact of exteriors, especially when it comes to commercial buildings or anything like that. If there's a bunch of crap in the way, I mean, even residential
It's become
homes too.
my favorite thing. My guys love it too. But that initial hesitation as an installer, especially being out here in Vegas where it's hot, it's like, man, we have as far as like a skilled labor job goes, we're typically inside an AC, and like the idea of doing exterior was like yuck. But it frees up so many other things you don't think about, like a commercial job, say a dentist office, like when are you going to do it that they don't have customers in there? You're going to have to move equipment around, blinds around, all of it. Go from
Risk
room.
of damaging
equipment.
equipment.
Go from room to room is extra time. Whereas the exterior of that same office, we can show up at 6 a.m. Nobody even needs to be there.
Yeah.
We can, if it's east facing glass, we can maybe come in the afternoon or later in the day when it's not in direct sunlight. It's the same thing. Nobody needs to be there. It opens up our schedule to move it around. And you remove all those extra pieces of blinds and furniture and maybe a half wall. And now you're actually solving another problem. When they built it out, the window split in half by a wall. Now, instead of having to tint a window up against some drywall, and then on the outside you can see it, we're actually hiding that with some DX and giving them higher, like there's all these benefits. And on a commercial job, when you start explaining the benefits, I'm going to give you a higher heat rejection. And even with a 7-year Sentinel warranty, people were totally cool with it on commercial, because you're typically going, if it's a standard film, from a 10-year to a 7, not a big deal. And then even from Panorama, 12 to 7, most people didn't mind. But now that Sentinel's a 10-year warranty, it's like, there's so many advantages to do exterior, especially on commercial. And then when you come across the window that it has to be anyways, it's like, okay. Like,
Makes it more simple. But yeah. And it's the confidence, like you said, I mean, we had lifetime warranties, 10-year warranties on commercial, and then you had a 2-year warranty on an exterior film, and you had silver 20 was your option.
Yeah.
So, but now you got a whole family of films, 10-year warranty. It's a lot closer to the commercial side warranty, reasonable for a life compared to a lifetime warranty on a residential.
Yep.
So it's definitely come a long way. They're definitely more robust now. So it's definitely a big game changer now.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys were ahead of the curve on that, because you guys started telling us about it years ago.
Oh, when Saint-Gobain, I think, I went first when they first took over, but I think in the first year or two, that was what all I heard. This is what's happening with glass. We are investing heavily in this, and you can see it come to fruition right now.
Yes,
like
absolutely.
It's very, very exciting, because even if you go from like the 10-year warranty, or say we're going to go interior lifetime warranty, because that's always kind of where I would push my customers when it comes down to it. Interior, it's lifetime warranty. But even if you think about it, the higher heat rejection you can get depending on the type of glass and all the situation, but even putting that exterior film on, even if it is only a 10-year warranty, the return on investment on something like that,
That's a good point.
it's almost worth the fact, like, hey, if it does go bad within 10 years, give me a call. If it doesn't, when it eventually does, we'll be back out, replace it. It's almost worth just paying for it, doing it again, because the return investment can be so high.
No, that's a really good point, because you can't get that with an interior film switched on the glass that we have these days. I mean, we've noticed that with energy analysis. I mean, we used to do, 5 to 10 energy analysis a week. Now we're doing maybe one, and it's usually not a very good return, because you're putting, films on behind these high performing windows, and you put it outside. And I always mention, it's like, hey, if you go outside, you can get this ROI, but if you're going to go inside, it is what it is. I mean, unfortunately.
Yeah. No. And what's crazy is the warranty thing too, is because I think it's been such a marketing strategy from all the manufacturers to the dealers that, like, the warranties, we've always then had it in our mind that it was a big deal to the end consumer.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I'm going on consultations and presenting these options to people, and it's like, well, interior is a lifetime with this heat rejection, and exterior, I'm getting you this kind of heat rejection.
Right.
And I've even been with the 7-year warranty, because I haven't even gone on a consultation yet where I can tell somebody, hey, our exterior has a 10-year warranty. They're like, whatever, that's plenty long. Cool. Yeah. No problem. Like, most people are just like, that's fine, whatever. Like, so that wasn't as big of a selling point for the end consumer as we thought it was, because it's a big deal for us to cover our liability.
Sure.
But we are using it as a selling point to the end consumer, and most of them are just like, 7's plenty.
Yeah.
So now 10's definitely going to sound great. So
you guys use meters? So you're using the Glass Check Pro? I know you
every single window now.
Yeah.
Yes. Now.
And I think it's a must. I mean, it's something that we try and push as well. I mean, like you said, we've been kind of pushing the idea of Sentinel Plus films, exterior films, simply because of the complications with interior application. And can't tell you how many calls I get. It's people just don't have any idea what they're putting film on.
Yeah.
No, yeah, we were definitely, I'd say over the past year and a half, actually probably 2 years, because even when I was selling, I was metering everything. Yeah, Misty was using it too. Is we finally got on board with the fact that this is a must-have, and just how we were expanding and growing the business too. It's like we can't be talking about something and not doing it, because then you just look like dipshits in my mind.
Plus, our dad had caught us in a pattern of only using the films that he knew were going to be good, like unless 99% of the time.
Unless you
so we weren't utilizing all the tools in the tool belt to solve the problems correctly.
Yeah.
So that was one of the big changes.
Yeah, there's always slate, like dual reflectives. I mean, yes, obviously you run into Surface 3, which here is very. We still run into them.
I run into them. It's the least common thing I come across, but I've been surprised a couple of times on residential neighborhoods, like older, high-end residential neighborhoods, that I've come across it. And I've been like, oh, I did not expect that. And the inside's already tinted. So it's like they're thinking we're going to come in, remove, and replace on the inside. And then I meter the glass on a window that's not tinted. And it's like, oh, these are Surface 3. I was like, okay, so first off, we got to get the stuff on the inside off, because that's not helping. It's probably hurting.
Oh, definitely.
And now we got to go exterior, and that's been odd. But the commercial, I've actually come across it the most.
And commercial applications, it's good to meter a couple windows, kind of get an idea when you're doing your estimate, but I know it's time consuming, but we always recommend, go through and measure all the windows, because you could run into one, and that was the one that's going to pop because somebody put it in backwards. So it's a good idea just to say, hey, customer, we need you to flip this window around so we can put the film on.
Yeah.
And we just recently ran into a job. It wasn't a Solar Gard product, but it was still a product where we had one window break. It was exterior. And then at first I thought maybe the shading from the top of the roof, but it was barely touching the window. So I had called the rep of the brand and talked to him, some photos. Nah, that shouldn't have been it. Just, you're good. Keep going. We'll replace it. Obviously, we're going to take care of it. My guy got down off the ladder, and he's working on the windows down below, and he's doing a window that's got full exposure. There's zero shadowing on the window. It's Surface 2. The film should be fine. Glass snaps.
Wow.
Call the rep again. All right, man, I just had the second piece snap, and it's a new build. So I was already talking with the customer. And letting the customer know, hey, we're going to pull that film off. Talk to your builder. If your builder gives you any problems, well, obviously we're going to take care of it, no matter what. Your window's being replaced.
Right.
When it comes down to it. Call the rep. He says, that shouldn't be happening. Like that's just obviously we're unlucky on 2 windows, probably already previously damaged. Is what it is. All right, my guy puts on third window, calls me, and I say, take all the film off every window right now, because we had other sections of the house that were already done in sun, fine, nothing happening at all. And I was like, dude, take it all off. I called the customer. I said, unfortunately, I don't know what's happening here. Yeah. We went back. At first, I thought maybe they put the glasses in backwards or something's off here. Went back, metered every single piece of glass. It's all in the right spot. I'm assuming it's just cheaper glass. It's the only thing I can think of. But like,
yeah, it's the one thing that we can't take note of, right? We can't pull the glass, look at the edge. You got bad edges that weakens the glass. So you could have a perfect glass that has good tensile strength, right? And you can put a film on it and get away with it, even a darker film, even something that's not reflective. But because we can't see the edge, we got to be a little conservative. So we say, hey, somebody might come out, cut that glass on site. Could be rough edges. I mean, wired glass is one of the worst glass cut on site. Laminated glass is probably second. But the more flaws that you have on those edges that we can't see, so it could have been very poor glass. Period.
That's what we've been thinking. Because even across the board with, actually, I don't think we've had any glass breakages.
We have
exterior wise.
Nope.
All right, with the other 2 brands we've carried, we've had some, but not saying one's causing
no, not at all.
But it's just all the breaks we have had have been new construction.
Most of our Solar Gard exterior has been DX though, so it's highly reflective.
Yeah,
so it's not causing much stress.
Right.
Yeah, but all the breaks that we have had have all been, even from commercial to residential, it's all been new construction. So we've pretty much have chalked it up to exactly that. Is when they're putting these houses together right now, unfortunately, they're just throwing these things together as fast as humanly possible. Yeah. So when they were installing it, did an edge get nicked? We can't see it because that was what they told me. Like, next time we have some glass snap, when we're replacing it, if you can set it up to where you can go out while the guy's replacing it,
see the edge,
take a look at the edge.
Yeah,
that's
just helpful.
Yeah, because they just don't want it be the reason why they shut down their warranty process, wherever it is for that exterior film. And it's like, because I was like, every time it happens, I'm calling them like, we're good, right? Like, I'm just like, it's like I'm almost re-verifying. Like, I know the numbers on the film and everything's good. And I'm like, I've never had this much glass snap before. Is it all new construction? I'm like, yeah. And he goes, most likely that's what that is. And I was like, all right, well,
it could be poor glass. I mean, you can always look at the label inside. There's sometimes a label inside the frame, so you can kind of jot down, at least the manufacturers. You kind of be cautious anytime that you see that label.
Ooh, I like that. Okay.
Yeah,
because that's
we got it on video, dude.
there's not a lot of information on glass. That's a lot of misconception too. I'll get somebody takes a picture of a bug stamp and they're like, "Hey, I got you all this glass information. Tell me what I could put on it." It's like, so it's and typically when we get and there's always films on a film to glass. You mentioned your dad just being conservative and using the films that are pre-approved. We have a lot of installers that way. And I mean, you can talk to them about meters. You can talk to them about the coatings, and they insist, anything that's less than 50% absorption, I'm good. It's like, it's not necessarily the case anymore, buddy.
Yeah, especially Surface 3, right?
Right,
yeah.
Exactly.
And hard coats.
Yeah. Well, what's crazy is people look at the cost of that meter and they are like, oh, that's expensive. But what I could list off like 10 jobs that I've been on that just by using the meter and bidding against someone else, that it was a Surface 3, that I was the only person to give them a bid for exterior film, that we landed the job.
Yeah. Good.
Because I actually educated the customer and like showed them the difference. And one of them actually was a pretty decent sized job. And they had an entire office area that somebody had already tinted the interior. And that was the area they were saying was the worst. And they didn't understand why it was the worst. And I was like, well, we need to get that off immediately.
Yeah.
And then when we did put film on, they couldn't believe the difference. Like they were so over the moon impressed with how big of a difference it made. And it's like, well, you got to put the right film on.
And that's a little of the misconception with ceramic films, right? I mean, we think we can just use them anywhere because automotive is taken off and you got some really dark automotive. And there's that misconception of understanding that, hey, what you put on automotive is a completely different story. Yeah. You mentioned that film there. I mean, likely they put it, regardless if it was a ceramic film or not, wasn't sure what it was, but you put it on a Surface 3, that glass is heating up. You got that radiant heat. Even though that glass is getting, super hot on a car is moving most of the time. Yep. It's carrying that heat away. So you touch that glass, it's not nearly as hot. And those people were probably just sitting close to the glass and feeling that radiant heat.
Yep, exactly.
And I can unfortunately say, I think I have a couple jobs in my mind, houses that were probably late 2000s, early 2010, 2011, where I'm putting slate on, and the customer, I can recall them saying like, I feel like my window's hotter. I'm like, oh, it's just we put a metallized film on.
Was it an Anthem?
No.
Okay, because that's where I've run across 3 or 4 houses that have
Up in
had
that-
Surface 3.
Not, and I think it was Seven Hills.
Yeah, Anthem's
up
the
in
one
that
I'm
area.
super cautious of now. Anthem Country Club, Surface 3
Well,
all over the place.
When those
Really?
houses were
Yeah.
being built, that's when I think that was everything that was on the crate. That was like on like that was going crazy with the low E was starting to really hit.
Yeah.
And
What's the code requirement here? Do you know? Right off the top of your head?
All the new construction that I'm coming across is, I don't know what the code is, but all the new construction I'm metering is all Surface 2 triple silver.
triple silver or double.
Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah.
Like every
So our
single-
code in Florida is a solar heating coefficient of 0.25. So it's got to be a triple silver.
Yeah.
So we're seeing a majority of that there. So
Yeah.
we get a lot, we can put anything we want on inside because of that. But it's still, if you're really going to, if someone's complaining about heat with a solar heating coefficient that's that low,
Yeah.
you have to go outside. That's
Yeah.
another opportunity for Sentinel films because you simply are not going to get any performance, jump in the inside.
All right, so I'm going to ask this.
Yeah.
So for the people that are listening, solar heat gain coefficient. Can you break that down?
Yeah. So the solar heat gain coefficient is actually what's transmitting coming inside. Okay. So when they measure the window and they look at the heat that's absorbed, what's radiated, so it includes radiation, with shading coefficient doesn't. So that's why solar heat gain coefficient has taken over. So it's actually the heat that actually gets in. And that's why for TSCR, which a lot of people don't know, it's just 1 minus the solar heat gain coefficient.
Yep.
So
they're
it's
the opposite
it's
of each
what's
other.
coming, what's going,
Yeah.
rejected out. So it's just those two numbers. So total solar energy rejected is a number completely proprietary to the window film industry.
Yeah.
The glazing industry doesn't use it. They only use solar heat gain coefficient.
So what's only coming in is what they care about.
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They're just the opposites of each other. One's telling you
Right.
what's going out. One's telling you what it's allowing.
Yeah, and somewhere along the line before my time, somebody decided to say, hey, customers don't understand that what's just coming in, that, being a low number makes a lot of sense. So we're going to give them a high number. This is what's being rejected out.
That's almost like when it comes to VLT. And I'm talking to customers about VLT. I'm like, oh, it's a 10. Like, oh, so it's light. I'm like, no.
No.
10's what's coming in.
Exactly.
It's holding out
Exactly.
90.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And wasn't early days of film, wasn't it opposite? And they switched it.
It
I feel
was.
like
It was.
I
You're
feel
right.
like it. Yeah, it was. I
Yeah.
remember in the 80s it was opposite, and then
Yeah,
when
we
they
had the
switched it, it
stainless
confused
steel,
everybody.
The stainless steel numbers were completely different.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, stainless steel's been around forever. So yeah, it switched to light transmission versus
Yeah.
what was being blocked
Yeah.
out. So
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people know that. It was a long
Yeah,
time ago.
I didn't
but I
know that.
remember it because I remember it being confusing to me. Like, wait, what?
and it was very confusing because we also put a 1 in front of it. Can't remember the 150 series, which was stainless steel 50, and then you had all these odd numbers. So not just the odd numbers, but I mean, even the transmission, right? I mean, it gets a little confusing, I think personally, for even in the automotive industry, because you're trying to put something on that's legal in your state, and what you see on spec sheets and on the end of the box is only on clear glass, right? So it gets a little darker when it's on there. So they buy it 35%, the legal limit's 35%. They get a ticket and someone doesn't understand why I only put 35% on there.
Yeah, the
But
glass wasn't 100% clear. There's some color.
auto
to it.
glass is definitely not 100%
Yeah,
clear.
yeah, that's
And
the-
some are finally labeling it, right? Some are putting
Yes.
70,
Oh, I
75%.
Yeah.
love the
Yeah.
fact when I see the back, when I see factory glass on the back, when I see the 20%, like,
So
Right.
when you
And
do
there's
know
so
the
many
VLT of the glass, what's the easy calculation or calculator out there to then say, okay, if I take this shade of glass with this shade of film, what is my end result?
Yeah, I mean, you can multiply the two and then times 0.9, and that'll get you in the ballpark. But it's just
You still want to meter it.
clip that.
yeah.
I need
And,
that for
and
myself.
what I would say to do, I mean, honestly, is so I don't know if you noticed in our books now, we started adding VLT on auto glass.
Yes.
And we picked a 75% glass. We didn't want to go 70, just kind of give you a ballpark idea. So someone had an idea what that VLT is going to be. Hey, you're buying this film, you're buying a 35. Is it going to be legal in your state? Look at this number. This number kind of tells you, hey, this is more or less where it's going to be. So you
Okay.
can at least say, no, my legal limit's 35. I'm going to have to go with the 45 then.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
So
That's
it's just
smart.
some guidance.
Thankfully for Nevada, there's some variation. It varies 7% when it comes to the law. So you have some play when it comes to putting film on. And for the most part, if you're at least in Vegas, I can't talk for Northern Nevada, but in Vegas, they care, but they just want to see you. If you have a 30 on your front doors, they don't. They could care less. Now, if you got 5% on your front doors, they might say something.
That's the other thing too. It's enforced in a way of like, if you're doing something stupid and they pull you over and like you're being, that's the time you're going to get it.
100%. Yeah. Anytime that I used to, did anything that was shady, I'd always tell a customer, listen, it's just respect, right? I mean, a cop pulls up next to you, you got 5% on your window. He probably doesn't care, but he does care that he can't see you.
Yes.
So just roll the window down.
Yeah.
5 minutes, you're at the light, move on, roll the window up, you're good.
Yeah.
But it's just out of respect.
Yeah. That's always been my like thing with people saying the law is so that they can see you is like, I get that when you get pulled over, in my mind, you're supposed to roll your window down anyways. Mm-hmm. So you should have that courtesy anyway. So it shouldn't be a problem. Agreed. And if the back half of the vehicle can be murdered out, like a Suburban full of people in the back, like they're not going to see them anyways. In my mind, the real concern is the safety.
Yeah.
Like at night, if your windows are so dark that you can't see out and you get in an accident and that to me is the bigger concern on going dark.
I seen a clip the other day and this guy was, it was on Facebook and he was mentioning that he was doing a video. He's inside the car and he goes, hey, he just wanted to show everybody, this is why people come to us and they travel a good distance, because here you have 5% on the side windows, you have 20% on the windshield. I mean, just right, puts it out there like that, and then he's showing how clear it is, and this is why our film is the best because you can clearly see out of it no matter how dark it is. Then he steps outside, shoots it outside. It's like, it's no indication, like you just said, the safety aspect of it. It's great during the day. Yeah, it's amazing. But man, at night, it's a total different thing.
Yeah. Well, if this turns into a clip, it'll probably get some traction because we've got a video out right now about windshields and how we won't do them dark. Mm-hmm. But the video shows a clip of a dark windshield and we like mention it. And the comments in there, people going back and forth.
That's all I do.
Is a dumpster fire.
I mean, it's an opportunity for the industry that, you got, as far as I've been able to tell, there's only one state, and that's Texas. That's kind of, you look at the language and you can put film on the windshield.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. All the other states have something about it, whether it's just a glare strip, can't put anything else, the rest of the window, whatever.
Medical.
Darkness, medical reasons, you can have a certificate or a prescription. So those things exist, but there's an opportunity now, especially with these ceramic films and having lighter films, that there's a chance to lobby to allow and make windshields legal. And, maybe it's controlled to a 70% VLT, added to the windshield, making it a net of 55 or something. But we got to get away from doing all this 20% on windshield and stuff. They're just going to kill it. They're just going to make it where they start cracking down on it, even the 80% and 70%.
Yeah, and that just hurts everybody.
It does, absolutely. There's a lot of windshields being done.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. And the people that you could actually talk, not only like talk them into it, but like show them like, hey, no, you can legally do this. Like that part of the market, it would open up so much revenue. It's ridiculous.
Absolutely.
I mean, there are plenty of people that don't even mess with it because like, you know what? I don't want to deal with it. I'm good. Like I understand I can get my medical exemption. I can do that, whatever. But like I just don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
And like no, thank you. But yeah, all it takes is one car that's got 20% or some psychos are putting 5% on the windshield, and it takes one person, one bad accident, something like that, and then do that to the wrong person, all of a sudden it becomes demonized, and then it's going to hurt the industry across the board.
Yeah, it does. It will, for sure.
Yeah. That's like, I don't try to get too controversial when it comes to tint topics, but that's the one that I don't get. There's absolutely no reason to take that risk, that liability as a business owner and just as a human, like knowing that could be dangerous. Like, why?
Well, then also too, people are like, well, I haven't signed an exemption. It's like, have you really vetted that out? Do you think that's actually going to go anywhere? Yeah. I mean, like, come on. Because every time that gets brought up in one of those videos or people making or talking about it, and it gets one of those threads going, it's every person's like, yeah, you need to actually talk to a lawyer and look that through, because when it comes down to it, if you've written, say, 1,000 plus, oh, this is a show car, and like it's a Honda Civic 2004, like, come on, you knew what you were doing when it came down to it. You were just trying to make money. and just say, oh, well, all liability is gone. Like, is it really worth it?
Oh, and also taking advantage of people with, skin conditions and stuff. And you lead them down the path that, hey, you should really put film on your windshield because you need to cut out all the UV.
Yep.
That's just lack of knowledge, right? I mean, there's no UV coming through the windshield. I mean, it's laminated glass. It's very well protected. But it's just misleading. I mean, there's so many misleading things in our industry, right? But there's things we can control. And I mean, that's definitely one that we should, especially when it comes to health concerns.
No. Thankfully, like for Nevada, we got the medical exemption, and it's a fairly easy process. Fill all the paperwork, get your general practitioner to sign off on it, and then you're allowed to throw 70% on the windshield, and then go down to, I think it's 20% on your doors if you want to.
Nice.
But at least you're able to throw 70 on the windshield.
Yeah.
If it gets heat rejection.
Yeah. It's plenty, right? I mean, I know when I was younger, I put something darker on there, but I mean, it's really not needed now with the films that are available.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I used to go dark because back in the day, HP, you go darker, you get better heat rejection.
Right.
And
it went up to 50%, right? Yeah. That's the lightest you could get.
Yeah.
So. That was our windshield film to begin with, was HP 50, and then Ultra Performance came out and squashed that.
Yeah, Quantum 52 was my go-to.
Okay. That's some good heat rejection.
That's good heat rejection.
Yeah, no, but now I'm in older, wiser. Don't really care about it being dark. Like keeping it legal, putting clear on the windshield, and going over the factory in the back of the family van with some more clear ceramic, and we're good to go.
Yeah, I only go dark. I think I only do 20% on my vehicles now.
And that's a good point. I mean, you bring that up as far as adding to the factory tint. I mean, I know a lot of people do two fronts and they just let the car go, but there's a lot of opportunity to put an IR film behind that factory tint and really cut out some heat and, make some money.
Yeah, we try to educate all of our customers, like, because we have people ask us, like, oh, the back's already done. Well,
right.
No, there's color in that glass, but it's not doing much other than that.
What the sales guy told you at the dealership was half true, kind of. Yes, you could label it as tinted, but is it actually doing what a window film can do, a ceramic film can do? No, not at all. It looks nice.
That's the other dirty thing that dealerships do that bugs me, having worked for one. When I left here right before I joined the Army, I worked at Lexus of Las Vegas for a little bit. And whatever. It's probably not the same people there anymore. But I'd get paid to install the front doors on an SUV. And then I'd look at the stickers on the vehicles sitting on the lot, and they're charging a full vehicle tint. Yeah. And it's like, man, that's dirty. Yeah, so it's like now when I go buy a vehicle, I look at that and I'm like, no, I'm not. I know the game. I roll the window down like, this isn't tinted.
And it's not like you're calling them out because every dealership does it. And not just in Vegas. I went and bought a truck in Arizona, and like I was already working the deal out over the phone. And they're like, oh, we're not going to charge you for tint. Because I was like, well, I'm a tinner, so I'm not paying for it. You can either take it off or do whatever you want. Like, I'm not paying for that. So when I got down there, got in the truck, the first thing is roll on the back windows. I already knew it wasn't because looking at the back window. It had defrosters. I could tell it wasn't tinted. I roll on the back doors. And I was like, you guys really get away with this, huh? And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you have a tag on the front for a full truck for $600. You only tint the front two doors. And he's like, oh, you're not paying for it? And then instantly changed the subject. And I was just like, I let it lie. And I was just like, all right, it's funny. But
so if you're in the market for a new car, look at that.
Yes. It's gotten worse. We've had customers come in where they're telling us like, they told me my whole car was tinted, and we're walking out to it. We're like, no, like I paid $1,000. I'm like, you might want to go back to that dealership and say something like, let's not do anything to it right now. Drive back there. There is no film on your car, so I don't know what they're telling you they did or didn't do, but you gave them an extra $1,000 for no reason at all.
Yeah, it's dirty.
Yeah, it's a dirty business. It really is. I mean, it's auto sales. Like, there's nothing good coming out of that. Yeah. Whether it's warranty, tint extras, even PPF is getting into that, right? Preloads.
$1,100 for door edge guards and door cups. I see that on stickers. I'm just like, oh my God.
The flip side to it though is we can actually point that out and show them that our pricing is actually
true. Yeah,
it's like it actually kind of does help us if we use it as like, well, the dealership would have charged you this, and this is all they would have done.
Yeah,
this is what our price is, and this is all that we're doing. Yeah. So it kind of can help us if we use it that way.
Oh no, it can. And well, even with them preloading vehicles, like I don't know which Dodge dealership it is out here, but I know I just Dodge trucks. When they come in, they already have the preload. partial on the front end, and it's a 1/2 inch short around the entire edge of the hood. I'm like looking at it. I'm like, because like, you know, when I first was doing clear bras, I was putting out like it was quality, but at the same time, I always questioned my clear bras. So it's like for me, it's my weakest thing when it came to being an installer. Like I'm really confident in my auto. I'm really confident in my flat glass, but like paint protection, I've always have doubts when it goes out. But at the same time, then I see other work that's done. I'm like, oh, I'm good. Like I'm beyond. Like, no, never mind. I'm just beating myself up. I need to stop beating myself up because I see that. I'm like, they really just sold that truck like that. And like, I know exactly what happened is they laid that kit on and they didn't realize they had how much stretch it needed. And they just squeegeed that bad boy on like nice and centered. Here you go. And it's just like, I can't.
Sad part is it, you know, if it's from the dealership, customer accepts it, right? But if you put that work out there, as soon as you pull a car up front, I mean, customer's going to be all over you.
Oh,
but if the dealership did it, it's acceptable.
Yeah,
regardless if it's window tint, PPF, or anything else, man.
I don't disagree with that, especially for tint too. Like certain dealerships with tint coming out of there, it's guy with a roll in the back just throwing it on. Then you got kind of question too: are you actually putting ceramic on?
Right.
Yeah. It's hard for me because even when people come, they're like, well, they told me they tinted the front doors. They said they put a ceramic on there. I'm like.
That's where meters come into play. We've been actually going out and testing it, and like sometimes it's like, oh yeah,
just to show them the performance, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
that's true. He's got
it's a telltale. I mean, it's like it's really not. Like, you know, maybe they got an NR film, but you paid for this, so which again, misleading as can be, right?
It's another reason to have the meter at your shop. Like you should be showing that performance. Like
you mentioned earlier, you know, the expense of like the Glass Check Pro, and I won't take any, you know, steam from Mark when he comes in later, but how much of it is an average replacement glass? You know,
exactly. That's what I'm saying. It pays for itself immediately.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, if at best 2 jobs, right? Yeah. Two broken glass windows break, you know, easily.
Yeah, and that's only one way it pays for itself. That's why I was bringing up the fact of the jobs that we landed, or the ability to use another film that's a higher end film that because you showed them that this is the film you need to use on this, that now gets you out of just using those pre-approved films that a lot of times might even be a more expensive product, but they're going to get the result the customer wants. And that's what they're looking for. They don't mind spending a little bit more money. No,
and that's it's interesting because we've done a very similar session, Mark and I, at the Panorama Pro meetings every year for the past 4 or 5 years now. It's been the consistent story is that, hey, with meters, you can open up your palette of films. So while someone's going in there with pre-approved products and they give them 2 options that don't meet their needs, here you come in and you say, okay, I have 6 options. I'm going to show you 3 that really meet your needs.
Yep. That's exactly
what they can pay a little more or probably pay the same, but at least it's another option of film that wasn't even on the list.
That is definitely probably, I'd say, the biggest gain. It makes, when it comes down to it, doing flat glass sales that much easier. It makes it to where it is, you can show a salesperson, it's a sales guy, to do sales, you have to enjoy sales. You have to be good at talk. Like you have to be a salesperson. Like between the two of us, he's a better salesman than I am, without a doubt. Like I can do it only because I have the knowledge and I have the experience. So when I talk about film, I'm very confident in what I'm saying. When it comes to using that meter and asking the appropriate questions, you can literally take someone who's just a salesperson, knows nothing about film, explain to them certain things. Like these are the questions you're going to ask. You're going to put this meter on the window. If this comes back, these options are gone.
Right.
These are no longer useful. This is why they're no longer useful, like highlight 70 when it comes down to it. If you're going to put highlight on, if it's triple silver, which I had a job where I called you and you're like, you could put highlight 40 on, but you're just kind of taking the dude's money when it comes down to it. Like this put slate 40 on. Slate 40, you need to lower the VLT on the window because highlight's not going to do nothing for them, but just cost them a lot of money.
Yeah, and people don't understand, you know, low-E coatings, the reason they call them low-E 1, 2, 3, right? It's multiple layers of silver and the performance changes and they're targeting areas of the spectrum. Well, when it comes to those double and triple, they're really starting to target the IR range. So highlight, as unique product as it is and as successful as we've been with it, it targets the IR range as well. So if you already have a glass with the Surface 2 coating that's targeting the IR range and you're putting film behind it, you're only working with what's left and there ain't much left.
Yep.
And that's why those films just don't perform well. And that includes ceramic, you know, whether it's a highly metallized film like Highlight or a ceramic film like CX, on those types of windows, it's not going to perform well. You really you have to target the visible light range.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate to the customer if they don't want to go dark, but if they want performance, or they can go exterior. You can do a light exterior film and get a lot of performance. There's a lot of value in knowing what you're dealing with and what you're putting film on.
Yeah, no, that's a crazy one. And I was so glad this came up and you confirmed it with me, because I already knew it. I've already talked to you about it before, but like when I'm going out and I meter a window, it comes back triple silver, but the person was already kind of indicating that they were a highlight customer, meaning that they wanted to keep it light, less reflective. That's exactly what I tell them. And it's like, the way I've found the best way to explain it is like 50% of the heat coming through the window is about 50% is from the IR spectrum, correct? Mm-hmm. This film has a 55 T-SIR, I mean, it's rejecting about 55% of the heat. That's because it's blocking the majority of that IR spectrum.
Yep.
This triple silver coating that you've got is already doing that. I would love to sell you this film. This film's more expensive. I'm going to make a little bit more money on it, but it's not going to do what you want it to do. So that limits us to this.
Yeah.
And this is still going to be great. And most people look at the spec sheet and they're afraid that it's going to be a little darker, like something like a Slate 30. But honestly, it's really not that dark. I'm actually reflecting the full spectrum, and I'm cutting that other half of the energy that's coming from the rest of the spectrum compared to just adding something onto your window that's just doing what your window's already doing. Explaining it like that, they understand it. They're like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, no, I totally applaud you for doing that, because that's absolutely correct. I mean, you said it right at the beginning, right? It's 50% of the heat, approximately 50% of the heat that's coming from IR. So for those out there just saying, hey, 95% of the IR, we're cutting out your heat, obviously nonsense, misleading.
Yeah.
And that's why the IR number is so misleading, because it's only reporting a portion of the spectrum and a portion of what's actually happening. So.
Oh, that's same thing goes for auto. I know there's been back and forth on Facebook right now about how that's reported. Like, that's one thing I don't stand for when it comes to my inside sales, is if I hear you say the infrared number, you better follow that up with the explanation of what that number means and what the total solar heat rejection is, and explain that there is a spectrum of heat. Yeah. And yes, the IR heat, we're holding out that part of the spectrum. Yes, we're holding out that much heat. But if you expand it to everything that's coming in, like, fully educate the customer.
Yep.
Because I can't tell you.
I think we got a chart on the counter too that shows it, so you can show it in a visual.
Yep.
Excellent.
Pie chart showing kind of this the IR heat rejection, and just to make it as visually easier for a customer to see, to show them like, all right, this is why this film's good. This is what's holding out. This is what this number means. Only because we have other companies that will say like, oh, our film holds out 91% of the heat or 93% of the heat. I'm like, they're not lying to you. They're just not telling you the entire story when it comes down to it. And they, in my eyes, it's not in good faith not to portray the entire story, because
it's misleading. Yes, it really is.
Yeah. I'm.
It's unfortunate. We got to deal with it. I mean, we ourselves, Solar Gard, fought IR for the longest. Like, we would not report it. I mean, we would not put it on data sheets. We still don't for architectural. Because the architectural should follow the glazing industry and just stay in line, right?
Yep.
Automotive industry, we lost that battle, right? It's IR, it's plastered everywhere, and we had no choice. We had to follow suit. But, with the IWFA and as IWFA members, we went in and we discussed how can we report this where someone can do an apples to apples comparison, because it was the Wild West out there. Still is, right?
Yeah. No, that's the one thing I do love about the automotive like brochures, is you have both. You have two different IR numbers on there. You have the IR number to say, hey, this is, if you're going to match us against someone else who's only going to report it in this way, it's the same. It's within 1% or 2%. It's identical. But here is actually the total IR if you're actually going to do the whole spectrum.
So glad you bring that up. So it's very easy. We just talked about solar heat gain coefficient, right?
Yep.
And that's over the whole spectrum. And then you got the T-SIR, which is the 1 minus solar heat gain coefficient. So we basically applied that methodology to the IR range. So all you're looking at in the IR ER is that it's 1 minus the solar heat gain coefficient, quote unquote, of the IR range.
Okay.
So we're using the same software, same calculation methods, NFRC calculation methods. And it's just 1 minus, so the same process, but it's only of the IR range. So that is the IR/ER.
Okay.
And that's what we agreed on with the IWFA members. It's like, hey, this includes the radiant heat, includes everything. It's the right way to do it because that's what we're using for everything else anyways. We're just going to only look at the IR range, but the whole thing, right? 780 to 2500. So it kind of explains everything. And I've got myself into, conversation battles initially before and on Facebook groups. And, I can't stand it because it's, you try and go in and educate, and sometimes people are willing to educate and listen, but then you have just the followers that, what someone else said is gospel, and sometimes that's just not the case. And it's important that people take the time to educate themselves and take their own opinion away from what it is.
Well, no, and that's another reason why too, to stay with a brand that is going to represent themselves in a way it's actually going to put all the information out there, because there are certain brands, offshoot brands and stuff like that only will report that the IR number, and they hammer that home. They make that the gospel for the person they're selling it to, and then they sell that to their customer the exact same way. And then it gets out there, and that's when I have people calling like, "Oh, this film's gonna hold 95% of the heat." I'm like, that does not exist.
Right.
Let me try to break this down for you and explain to you what they're telling the truth to a point, and here's the rest of the story. And then after you educate that person past that point, especially a consumer, much easier for them to you sit there and you break it down for them, and they're like, "Oh," and now that last person they call, they're like, "I'm not." Most likely in their head, I'm not calling that person
Absolutely
back.
not. Yeah, because if they're misleading about that, what about the warranty? What about their work? What about everything else?
Are you actually putting that film on? I mean,
right.
They just lost the trust. Yeah. Trust factor is completely gone.
No, for sure. Without a doubt. I totally agree.
So the question I've got for you, because I know I've been calling you pretty frequently now, I've taken over the sales role. Because you are such an amazing asset and tool. Like when I'm on a bid and I do come back with a weird result from the meter that I haven't seen before. How often or how much of the network do you think is actually utilizing that, and compared to not?
Not enough. I would say a very, very low percentage. I would say, and it's important for us to also educate. I think we do a good job with the Panama Pro, dealers. But I think we need to do a better job with the Solar Gard dealers, and we're looking to start doing that in 2025. But I would say just guesstimate, maybe 20%.
Oh, you guys,
and of the architectural side. Okay, so automotive side, totally different story. I'm just separating the two.
Yeah. That's what I mean. It's architectural.
I would say probably 20%. I mean, we still get, even in the Panorama Pro, the first thing we do is, we have people raise their hand and say, "Hey, who's using meters?" And then, as we go through the meters, who's using this meter? And there's still, maybe half of the Panorama Pro, which is great, but that should be 100 of our Panorama Pro dealers for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Utilize
towards Steve is the fact of make that a requirement. If you're going to be a Panorama Pro dealer, you should be holding that line really strong.
So this is a question I've got that ties in. Maybe you don't have the answer, but I'm hoping that it goes this direction. We had Eric in here earlier this week with TintWiz and the partnership they're doing with you guys.
Yeah.
It sounds like there's going to be some kind of way that we can add you into our Solar Gard partnered TintWiz and give you access to look at a project.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The sales guy.
Yeah.
So that's totally on you, right? You get the right to do that. You don't have to.
Yeah. You can opt into it. But if how much easier and better line of communication? I feel like, to me, I'm thinking about it to be able to get stuff to you even faster without texting you or emailing you.
Yeah.
If I could just literally get you connected to a project that we're doing, that I put the pictures of the project,
Windows face,
all the information you would possibly need that I'm typically getting to you, I'm already putting into TintWiz. The image of what the meter read, all of that. If you could just get tasked to hey, check this out for me, and then have that communication in the project, to me, that would be game changing on a level that most people don't realize.
Seriously, love that, because there's no sense for you guys to have to double the work, right? I mean, we want you to contact us whenever you in a pinch or anything like that, or reading something you're not sure of. But yeah, absolutely. If we have that access, you say, "Hey, Miguel, you tasked me to look at it, say everything's in there, take a look at it. Let me know if you have any questions." Perfect.
Dude, that was going to save not only us a ton of time, but that would make you even more useful to the entire network.
Yeah, because I mean, there's and once you get used to it, you do a real good job of getting information, getting glass information. I mean, but sometimes I'll get something like I said, the bug stamp earlier. You start with that, and then you start the communication. That's not enough. That's not going to do it. It's just like, well, where can I get the information? Now you're going back and forth forever.
Yeah.
So it takes time for some of these dealers to educate themselves on what's needed. And again, that's something that we need to do a better job on moving forward. But once they get to that point, yeah, load that stuff up on the Solar Gard 10 Wiz and we just move on. We just take a look at it. I can provide feedback right there, text you, hey, need a little bit more information. So yeah, whatever makes your guys' job easier that we can assist on, for sure.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to the 10 Wiz thing and see what we can do.
Yeah, I could see that being game changer.
Oh, that's going to be huge. And the fact of is taking out even the communication of like the phone call or the text, hey, can you look at this? Just literally, I'm just going to compile all the information I know I need to have in there to get the answer. Or at least get the question answered. And I'm just going to task them real quick because I know for us when it comes down to it, I'm pretty sure almost everyone within Solar Gard will have access to ours because when it comes down to it, I know I go to a majority of you guys for questions.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, that's what we're here for. I don't think people use it enough.
No, definitely don't. I don't think so. I don't think I was using it enough to begin with. And then when I went to start doing some of the sales and as we've been growing the business positions we've been put in, it's like my usual go-to. It's like not that I don't call Nick, but it's like if it's a certain question, I skip right over Nick, I skip right over Rob, and it's either I'm calling you, I'm calling John. Like I know where I can get the answer I'm looking for. I'm going to you guys instantly, and the ease of that, how you guys have that transition, I can't tell you how amazing that is.
Awesome.
Yeah. No, and the crazy part is like we're lucky enough to be able to sit here right now with you and have a conversation with you. But once I got into that sales role, I've started utilizing that and calling you. The oddball scenarios that I've come across, that was like such a huge learning moment for me that now like in the future I come across that same scenario, I already know like, okay, if I get a weird reading like that, I got to go through different settings in the meter. I got to test the inside and the outside. And like, is it not laminate or no laminate? Like all of those different little details. Like I've been using the meter, but I didn't even know those were features in the meter until I needed it all of a sudden and I had a conversation with you and I was like, oh.
And I continue to learn from Mark. So I mean, those meters, obviously, Mark knows them like the back of his hand. And I'm getting more and more comfortable with them. But there's times that there's some readings that's like, I'm not sure what you're reading there, and I have to contact Mark, get him involved, and they're a great support line too.
Oh yeah.
So for those that are even considering buying some cheap, whatever black market meter that says it does the same thing, think of the support too, because when you get that funky reading, and you will. You need someone to bounce it off, and you're not going to do that if you buy just some random meter online. So
that's the thing I love too, the transparent communication with you, because I can think of a project specifically that was for me that you told me like, I got to talk to Mark. Like, you know what you don't know. You don't think exactly. Yeah, you're still learning, and like that gives me confidence that you're just not going to tell me something to tell me something.
I will absolutely support you guys, but I'm not going to make up shit. I will definitely, if I don't have the answer, I'll get you the answer, but I'm not going to just make it up.
Yeah.
So
no, I look forward to. We're going to, which obviously we'll talk with Mark a little bit later on, but I know that we're going to. Kyle Fuller is going to come out within the next couple months, and we're going to set aside like 2 days where we're going to have every meter that they have and sell, and then we're going to go through the glass here and go, this is what this meter does. This is how you use this meter, and actually create a catalog to where we could actually hopefully streamline to work. Because a lot of people, if anything, they'll let their ego get in the way, or they feel embarrassed they have to ask a question. It's like, oh, I've been tinning for 20 years or 15 years or whatever it is. And it's like, I don't think I should have to ask this question. Like that, definitely don't think that. Like
no.
There is so much stuff that like even when it comes down to when we start using the meters, when it comes to the strength of the glass, that meter, like there were numerous jobs where I had to call Mark, and I'm like, all right, so I'm seeing these colors. What's this mean?
And it's just building that confidence, right? I mean, I remember, I don't know if you remember Lyman McNutt. Lyman McNutt was he was one of the original panorama dealers for Solar Gard.
My dad,
he was in the Sarasota area.
And he always wear crazy shorts. No.
That's and his son worked for Solar Gard for a little while, John McNutt. But anyways, he used to call Nick Routh. I know you remember Nick Routh. I mean, he was the technical support, my mentor. And he would call him, and Nick was always on speakerphone, so he was in the next office, so you could always hear his conversations. But
that's
he would
a smart leader.
Yeah, and it was always Lyman would call, and no matter how many times we told him, it's like, yeah, it's tempered glass. You can put whatever you want on it. he would still call every project. Hey, I'm going to do this blackout. It's glass temperature. I just want to make sure it's okay. It's like, yeah, for the 100th time, it's good. But it's okay. Like, I mean, I'd rather, get that, someone call me and ask for that confirmation till they build that confidence to do it on their own. They see a tempered stamp and then they do it and they don't even worry about it. It's like, that to me is like, that's a growth in their process, But yeah, initially there's no dumb questions. So we'll guide anybody along and, we'll continue to guide you guys along. Pretty soon you won't even need me.
That'll never be true.
I don't know.
No, because I know that you're getting the information faster than we are, and you're getting it from so many different sources. So you're seeing where things are changing. So it's like, I know that you're always going to be ahead of where we're at. And if I come across something I don't know, that's like my first.
Well, especially
option.
Especially with all the new technology of the glass that's coming out too.
You guys are getting surface ones like all over the place in colder areas.
Yeah. So and that's the codes just reducing further and further. So while we in the South deal with solar heat gain coefficients getting dropped lower and lower, they're dealing with U factors getting lower and lower. So right now, they're adding that surface 1 coating, which will be accompanied by a surface 2, right? So you'll have a combination on that glass. But eventually it's going to be triple pane, because that's as far as they're going to get that U factor with that surface 4 coating now. So now if it drops any further, it's got to go triple pane.
Now with the triple pane, is triple pane just a no-go on any films on the interior?
It's a lot. However, and it's mainly because what's happening to that interior glass has nowhere to release that heat. So whatever it absorbs from that energy coming from an interior film going out, it's absorbing it, and that airspace is trying to slow down, so that glass just gets super hot. So exterior films will dominate that area. But at the same time, with complex glazing, you got triple silvers. You got a triple silver on surface 2, and then you got a surface 1 coating possibly, or even if it is just a surface 2 coating, nothing else. Then you're still going to be in the same situation you are today. There's a lot of heat being handled, so you're going to be safe putting an interior film on. But those are going to be a case by case. We actually just released a triple pane film to glass for Canada, which we'll distribute to the US as well. And it's complicated, because it's like surface 2 and 5, surface 2 and 6. So there's so many combinations, you can't put that on a piece of paper.
No. So this is a personal question then, because my house is right up against a freeway, and a bunch of the backside of my house got replaced with triple pane. Just for the sound factor.
Okay.
And when I did it, I just put some slate 30 on it.
Well, again, you're probably good because of the code requirements here. Solar heat gain's probably very low, so you're probably perfectly safe.
I need to take one of those off and meter it and see what's on. Yeah, you should probably
look at it just.
But if I'm gonna get better result with the exterior, and I did it before we were really doing a ton of exterior, I might remove it and go exterior.
Yeah.
But yeah. But we don't come across that very often out here. I've come across it like twice in the last year.
It'll continue to grow.
Yeah.
Europe's already doing a ton of triple pane, already getting into some quad pane. Canada's already doing quite a bit of triple pane. So we're just behind them.
Okay, so this leads into a question. Warranties, your guys' warranties are great, especially glass breakage. But the amount that's being paid for glass breakage has kind of stayed in the same range for a while, and the cost of glass keeps getting higher and higher and higher. Is there anything in the pipeline of that possibly adjusting?
I cannot answer that question.
Okay, I figured.
I figured. But I totally understand it. Now for Panorama Pro, it's less of a concern with the Premiere Plus.
Yeah.
I agree. It's something that definitely needs to be looked at. But that's well above my pay grade.
No, that was one thing that I like a dumbass forgot to ask at the pro meeting. That was one thing I wanted to bring up, because it wasn't with Solar Gard film, it was a different film, but we had 4 windows we had to replace, and they were $1,500 a piece when they came down to it. And that was just dual pane. They're just big pieces of glass.
Yeah.
That was the other reason why I wanted to know about triple panes, because I know when it comes down to it, triple panes, ungodly amount of money when it does come down to it. So is it really worth the risk putting anything on the inside? Because if that does crack, even if you are a pro dealer and you're also a premier dealer, part of it's covered.
Yeah.
Like, you're still going to come, at least for us, what we do is, yes, we try to take care of our customers as much as possible. So for the most part, most situations, if it ever exceeds the amount that we're going to get credited back, we just cover it.
Yeah.
When, as long as we did our due diligence or,
Right.
if it's a situation we're telling the customer, like, no, I don't think this is a good idea. And we're having that conversation, that's completely different. But for the most part, anytime something breaks with any film that we put on, doesn't matter what the coverage is, we pay for it. And what we can get back from the manufacturer is awesome and helps. Being a premier dealer helps tremendously because it really takes a lot of the hurt out of the fact that we know majority of the glass that we're covering is good. And if it's out of that comfort zone, that's when we call you and we ask, like, all right, how much should we be worried about putting film on here? And then, we take that liability on and we go from there.
Well, and I think, and it's great that you do that. I mean, it's definitely not something that you absolutely were required to do, right? I mean, it's the warranties are warranty directly to the consumer.
Yeah.
But the fact that you do that's awesome. But when it comes down to, having the education and using the meters, the chances of you breaking glass are going to be slim. It's going to be very, very little.
Yeah.
We pride ourselves in our approval process, and our glass breakage rate is extremely low. There's some risky films out there, and they're just business risk. And typically, you take those out of the equation, and what we approve and how we analyze things, we're pretty safe.
Yeah. I mean, I can't think of a single Solar Gard glass breakage we've had.
I think we maybe had one this year.
One, it was actually up in McDonald.
Oh, Highlight 40.
Yeah, above that door.
That was the
Commercial.
That was
like a commercial window. It might.
That was like 2 years ago.
Oh,
That was
whatever.
still,
but
that's only
that's all I could think of. And we put up 100,000 square feet.
Yeah,
in one window.
It's
It
definitely
happens.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, we can't see the edges, right? So it could be a totally safe window, pre-approved on anything, greened out across the board, bad glass, it could still break.
Yeah, that's probably why we have the confidence in the fact of saying, like, just letting, like, we're just going to take care of our customer. Because the rarity of it happening, it's probably 1% or less from what the square footage that we install in a year. So I'd rather just make my customer happy, let them know that I'm going to take care of them, and because that'll pay even more in dividends when it comes down to it in the long run, of them talking about us, letting maybe someone who was a little weary about putting film on, especially talking if they have a glass, a friend that does glass, or it's new construction. Because new construction, they try to fear everyone into, don't take your windows, your warranty's gone. Absolutely. And it's like, that's okay.
Yeah.
We got you, especially being a Premier Plus
Yeah,
dealer.
that's a game
really
changer
helps.
for a lot of people. And I can tell them, hey, we can match whatever that window has.
Right.
And most other warranties are maybe going to be 10 years on the glass. Like, they're like, oh, all right. Oh.
Yeah.
That I think is a huge selling point.
It is. I mean, it's they're programs that I believe in. They work very well, give you a lot of benefit, and a lot of safety backing, right? I mean, like you said, $500 is not going to carry you far, and it's actually $475, right? Because it's $25 deductible. So
yeah. No, yeah, definitely, especially now. I mean, a 3x5 piece of glass now, you're looking at about $500 to $600 just for a regular 3x5, and it's like, I remember it was $200.
Yeah,
that was nice. Those were the days.
Yeah,
and that was the main reason why I wanted to bring that question up. And I knew at that meeting was a spot to bring it up, because the people that need to be in that room were in that room, at least not to get an answer, but at least throw it in the air of like, hey, this is a question of mine.
Definitely
because
needs to be brought up.
Yeah,
I mean, without a doubt. So it wouldn't have been taken in any negative way, and it's been discussed internally. Like, hey, all this inflation, everything's gone up. Like, do we need to look at our warranties? Do we need to look at this and that? And the answer is yes. I mean, we do. What we do with it, that's where it's above my pay grade.
Yeah, no, I just more wanted to bring it up. I didn't think you were gonna give me an answer, but maybe there was something already in the works. But just make sure the conversation's going, because it does seem like it's an issue.
Yeah,
but luckily it doesn't happen often. Right. So it's kind of an issue. On bigger projects, I think, is where it becomes.
Yeah, but even when you get to the bigger projects, so as soon as threshold's 2,500 square feet, if I'm not mistaken, and then have to have glass.
Then you have to have
approval. Yeah. So,
which again, it's one of those things where we just need to educate our Solar Gard network on it. We've done well with the Panorama Pro, but even then, it's still some people don't. They look at the first 3 pages of our film and glass guide, right? All the green dots, yellow. but they don't look at that last page. And that last page has a lot of information, not only some expanding of their palette of films, but also those details like the 2,500 square feet requirement.
Yeah, because
and it's just a situation where we have that liability, right? So we're just looking at the liability and say, okay, it's 2,500 square feet of glass. That could be pretty expensive. So let's take a closer look just to make sure.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Like we just went through that on a project recently, and it was like all the extra details you needed to make sure we're good and covered. Yeah. It was actually nice to go through that because I've never personally gone through one of those, and having to go through it and ask you questions on it, it definitely made me a lot more comfortable on the size of the project. That like, okay, cool. Yeah, Miguel's saying we're good and we got everything down, and
awesome.
Especially when you start getting to that size, it's like this could be really bad.
I've only had one project. It was there. Technically, I was helping Misty. That was that law firm.
Yeah.
And that was all single panel, 3/4 inch glass to where we put slate 10 on the whole building. And boy, were they happy. It made a big difference on that building for a certainty.
Dual reflectives are just an amazing product. I mean, it's hard to beat that. I mean, we still a lot of silver going on out there, but I mean, I figured at some point dual reflectives would just overtake, but silver still is a great performer. So even though it's conventional film, it still cuts out a lot of heat. But dual reflective is hard to beat.
Yeah.
That's a majority of what we sell in Florida. Is that what majority of what you sell?
Slate. Oh yeah, slates are our biggest by far. Yeah. And DX is the one that's creeping now because
which is also a dual reflective.
Yeah. It's just like the person that really wants maximum heat rejection. Like, hey, this is great, but this will beat this and by quite a bit. Like, it's kind of crazy. Seeing the DX5 have like a 91 T-Ser on double pane is like, I didn't think I'd ever see that number. That
I know.
high.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's absolutely crazy. But it's at the forefront of the sun, right? There's no glass that it's going through. The absorption is super low. So yeah, it just greatly performs.
Yeah.
I know we have a 5 and a 15. Has there ever been talks about maybe a 30?
There's been talk, but whether it's to the R&D department to be able to deliver it. But yeah, if the demand is there, which the demand's going to come from you guys, then sure.
Just have something that's
I could definitely sell that.
Yeah, because the 30 in my mind, because even when it comes to like slate 30, you put slate 30 on most homes, you can drive through a neighborhood, and to most people's eyes, you can't tell which house. It just looks kind of like a dark low-E window. Thankfully, all low-E windows now have such a high reflection rate that you don't have to necessarily 30 doesn't really stand out. I mean, in my eyes, 10 really doesn't either. But I mean, the one film that I think we'll probably start exploring and buying more of is 20. Because I didn't realize how 20 same thing as almost like 30. You can't even really tell it's on there. I mean, as soon as you cross that threshold of the 10 does have that. You can see it. You can see the windows tinted. And I don't know why I never put 2 and 2 together because we sell 3M too, and we have night vision 25, and 25 always comes off that way. And if someone picks 25 over any of the slates, it's because of the exterior look. And I've never put it together. Like, hold on, we have slate 20. Why wouldn't it be the exact same thing? Because the same thing happens in night vision. You go down to 15, super reflective. You can tell instantly from the outside. 25, not so much. But the slate 20, I think, is something that we'll probably actually start expanding and probably purchasing. My dad never purchased it because in his eyes, if you're going to go down to 20, you're going down 20 for heat rejection, just go to a 10.
Yeah.
And either you're going to go with 30 or 10. And it's just like, that is where he was. Those were his 2 lanes.
Right.
Which for inventory purposes isn't bad. And it does make it simple on the customer.
Sure.
Because
too many options.
And they're so close to each other. They already have a hard time ticking between 10 and 30 sometimes. So, but the DX30, the only issue is it's probably still going to be more reflective than slate 30 because it's on the exterior.
It will be more reflective. It's also a different look.
Yeah.
Slate has that subtle reflective look.
Yeah.
It's got a kind of a little bit of a goldish tone. The DX is more of a silver tone. So.
I've been surprised though. We've had a project that we put slate 10 on the inside, and there had an arch window above it, but it had a shutter on it that was you couldn't take it out. It was built in, they're permanent. And we didn't realize it. I don't think it was one that I sold. I think it was one that I went to go install. Got there and I was like, oh, I can't get to that window. And I was like, but I do have an exterior film that's going to be really similar. And so guy was cool. I was like, I'm not sure how exact it's going to be, but it's going to be close. And I put DX15 on that top arch on the outside of that window. And you could not tell a difference from Slate 10 to DX15. They're like almost identical. It was very close. Like I was shocked how close it was.
Even at Echo and Rick, we have a restaurant that we did.
Did it there.
Steakhouse.
We did it there after that house.
We were able to obviously access the inside majority of the windows, but it had transom windows that were just false windows. So there was no access in them. So we had to go exterior because you had the reflection of the Slate 10 kind of, you could see that, and the top windows were just black. So they we want that to match. We put the DX15 up there. And
so, and both those situations, was there any sun hitting those windows?
In the afternoon.
Yeah. It was so close. I got a picture of it. I'll show it to you.
Yeah.
Because I was like stunned. I was like, I got to take a picture of this and make sure we remember this for the future because they were so close.
Because I could see if the transom's in shade or both windows are in shade, maybe looking pretty similar, but I wouldn't have thought that they would look the same.
Yeah. I mean, to our eyes, we'll see it. To, I'd say, majority of the consumer's eyes, it's not something that is going to stick out enough for someone to be like, hey, what's going on here?
Yeah, I got you.
Very, very close.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we also came across a situation, I think you might actually be pretty interested in this, producing somewhat of some nighttime privacy.
Oh, yeah. I'll show you that video.
So we had a house where we did their entire courtyard, and they had like from floor to roof windows, 30-inch windows and like French panes.
No, yeah, they were like
French doors.
They were like 5 foot wide to floor to ceiling.
And we put, what was it, slate 30, right?
Yeah, so that side of the house, they didn't want to get as dark. We put slate 30 there. The bedrooms and a bunch of other places, we put slate 10. And they could feel the heat rejection difference. And it was mainly for heat rejection from the 10. And they were like, oh, we kind of think we messed up and we want to switch this out and go darker. And I was like, well, we don't have to take that off. Like I can actually put an exterior film on, get you higher heat rejection. It might be a little bit darker than what you had on the 10, but it'll definitely be much higher heat rejection. And at the time, we weren't selling as much of the DX, and it wasn't like something that was thought about initially. And I was like, I showed them the heat rejection. They're like, okay, yeah, let's do that. And I was like, then we don't have to do the removal, and we can just do the outside. So we put DX15 on the outside, these windows that have slate 30 on the inside. And surprising to me, right when we finished it, it started getting dark out. They have courtyard lights, but 2 of the windows we hadn't finished yet. And we were going to have to come back the next day for that were facing like the dining room. And then there's a whole wall of windows that wrap around. The lights are on inside equally everywhere. The lights are all on. And she walks outside. She's like, oh, now you can't see in at night. And I was like, wait a second. Like the dining room, slate 30, see right in. Like there's nothing there. All the rest of the windows, you could not see in at all.
Really?
At all.
Oh, he was so jealous.
I was like, oh my God,
you gotta look at this video,
we've got nighttime privacy, bro. Like, and then I took a video of the whole courtyard. Now it is a well-lit courtyard.
Yeah. That helps.
Yeah. So we've used it a couple other times where customers wanted that. And I've been like, you're going to have to be okay with it being really dark.
Yes.
And we got to take your window twice. So it's going to be twice the charge. But I can make it happen if these conditions are met. And we've used it a couple times since then. So it was actually really surprising. So in my mind, and let me tell me if I'm right, just like if you have like a front door window that has sliders behind it, like on the other side of the room, and even if you put something like slate 10 in the afternoon when sun's pouring through that window, you kind of lose the privacy as if it's nighttime and the lights are on inside. Right. In my mind, what I think is happening, because you have the 30 right there up against it, even with the lights on inside, it's blocking 70% of the light from the interior lights from being behind it. So now, and you got the reflection on the exterior surface with a little bit of light hitting it, is like, it's like the perfect storm of like, oh, this actually kind of works.
It's got to be the perfect storm, and light transmission definitely works the same way both ways.
Yeah.
So it's definitely already cutting out 70% of the light coming from the inside out.
Yeah.
But those lights have to be producing enough lighting to cause reflection that you're seeing more of a muted appearance in the glass than actually seeing through it.
I've had people ask for it where they don't have exterior lighting, and I'm like, I can't do it. I
don't think it'll work in that situation at all.
Yeah.
I've never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
The fact that it's canceling out the
Yeah.
light.
So I've got a cool video of it. I'll show it to you.
Yeah,
and when the
for sure.
customers are asking for that and the conditions are right, I'll show them that video, and I'll even include it in their proposal intent list so they can look at it.
So in Florida, we have turtle codes, and it's to save the sea turtles, right? So they come on the beach, they hatch, and houses along the coastline have to mute the lighting from their interior going out. So that's where light transmission, we can cut out the same light because it's the same.
Yeah.
You can just put whatever needs to be on that glass to reduce the light from the interior going out.
Okay.
And that keeps the sea turtles going towards the ocean versus going towards their house and dying.
That's cool.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. There's so many uses. Like,
Yeah.
there's so many uses for film that you would never think of. It's
Yeah.
crazy. Like,
that one's become a hot topic lately because they keep enforcing it, and now's the time, and they're really enforcing it. So people have a lot of balcony glass, and they put balcony lights on, so they're even having to do the balcony. But they're even the bulb has to be reduced. Not VLT lighting in
Like
order
the
to
lumens?
prevent it.
Yeah.
Yeah, or they have to shut it off by a certain time.
oh wow.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. That's a hell of a market. Like, you gotta tint your windows because of nighttime. And it's because of the turtles coming.
Because of the turtles, save the turtles.
That's crazy.
That's nuts. So is there anything else coming out right now from you guys that's like
No, man. I mean,
new?
we're pretty fired up. I mean, with Sentinel Plus, we got Sentinel Plus warranty extended, right? And it's not just extended. So I mean, just to clarify, I mean, a lot of people got a misconception that we just advanced the warranty. We've actually improved the polyester that we used, improved the hard coat, and the marrying of those two products together is a better bond than it ever was before. So it's definitely a totally improved product. But that went to 10 years now, 5-year on the sloped. But also we added the Sentinel 8 mil to that line. So now we have an 8 mil exterior film that launches in 1st of January.
and in like shades or just clear?
No, just clear. It's
That's-
strictly for a safety application
Okay.
where, some of these specs are
Fine with
requiring a
that.
dual
No.
application.
No, I'm good
So,
with that too.
we opted to, expand our Sentinel Plus line, as we'll continue to do.
All right.
Hell
So
yeah.
we added the 8 mil. So that'll be available 1st of January. We're launching Endeavor at the in SEMA right now, which is our new automotive film. So yeah, we got a lot of stuff happening. Working on a EMI product, an improved EMI product. I know a lot of people used Highlight for that.
Yeah.
But we're looking to something to advance that to really get over the threshold and get into a lot of that government.
I was talking to Steve about that last
Yeah,
night. That's
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, we got a lot going on, man. Our R&D department right now is really kicking ass. I mean, they're really doing a great job.
Oh, no, I'm looking forward to the new product for the EMI.
Yeah,
EMI product, because all of a sudden I didn't really notice how much stuff I was getting on my feed just from like people like pretty much
Ben Greenfield.
Yeah.
Like, people
So-
that are doing it, like trying to get rid of it, not even for government issues, for like health issues.
for health issues.
Oh,
Like the
okay.
Gary Breckas of the world, Ben Greenfield. And like in my mind, they're
Oh, there's
already
definitely
promoting
some stuff.
products to reduce that kind of stuff in your home environment. So I was like, I think there's an avenue there for it too.
Oh,
Awesome.
absolutely. That person who's going to buy those products, and like, as the research keeps coming out with it and showing that, okay, it's going to benefit you. It's well, I have a film now that I can put on your windows to help reduce it coming into your home. Like you guys talking about that, and then me seeing all that stuff start popping up. I'm like, there's the next market.
Excellent.
There
That
you go.
sounds good.
Yeah.
One thing I didn't want to leave out is environmental product declarations, where we've done our EPDs before. We're actually finishing them up right now, and they should be available 1st of January as well. So that's just our environmental product declaration on the manufacturing process, transportation, everything inclusive, to basically, show that, hey, here's our carbon impact on the world. That way we can judge ourselves later and say, okay, here's the improvements we made. And now we continue to reduce our carbon footprint, which is a big Saint-Gobain thing for sure.
Oh,
Nice. We'll have to update that intent list once it comes out, because we actually include it in every proposal.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, we've done it twice. We're the only manufacturer that's gone all the way with it, and here we are the 3rd time to do it again. So
Awesome. Well, dude, thank you for coming in. I really appreciate any time we can ever get from you. You've been a lifesaver over the years.
no, I appreciate
a
that. I'm
huge
here to
utility.
support you guys, man. I'm looking forward to what Green Valley does, because you guys are doing a lot right now.
Oh,
Very impressive.
no, yeah, no. When he took over the sales spot, he would call me with certain questions, and it started to get to the point. I'm like, call Miguel. Like, I mean, I appreciate it, like, but like, I think I know. I think I've had this conversation before, but let's be sure.
Yeah.
Call
It was
Miguel.
like, I'd be like 95% certain, but like, maybe I'm going to run it by Ricky real quick. And he's like, I think you're right, but call Miguel.
He just reminded me of raising kids and getting to that math level where you're like, yeah, I can't help you anymore.
Yeah.
Yes, that's pretty much all the projects where it's like, I think I'm right on this one, but let's have this double check.
That's where I go to ChatGPT now. Like, oh, you need help with math? I'll just take a picture of it. Like, here.
Which that's awesome.
Here's the explanation of why to do it too.
Yeah. Awesome.
But no,
Thank you.
We really appreciate you coming in, and sitting down with
Glad
us.
you guys invited me, man. Missed it.
Looking
do it
forward
again.
to having you out here when we start doing some classes too.
For sure.
To go over all the specs, details, glass, all that stuff. I look forward to bringing all you guys in and recording as much content as possible, and hopefully providing a library that will be very useful for our industry.
Love to be a part of that.
So
Love to
look
be part
forward.
of that.
All right, guys, you know how this works. Please reach out. I mean, not reach out. Please subscribe, follow along.
You can reach out if you want.
Oh, yes, you can reach out too. If you're part of the Solar Gard family, don't hesitate to reach out if you got questions. Reach out to Miguel. He is a wealth of knowledge. And anytime I feel like I'm stuck in something that I don't know if I'm doing the right thing or not, and I don't want to put myself in a liability situation, or if I want to make sure that I'm actually telling my customer the truth of what I'm going to provide for them, actually solve that problem, reach out to Miguel. All right, guys.
Yes. Thank you. Subscribe, follow.
Good one.